So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on What If Naruto Struggle in Room with Ino movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Yondaime Hokage was currently fighting a losing battle. Bodies lay wasted as the demon with 9 tails massacred some of the finest shinobis this village with a swipe of its tail. He knew he had to do that jutsu, but the problem was that the baby wouldn't survive past its 5th birthday. No human baby could take in the awesome power that was the 9 tails fox. Hokage-sama looked. The Kyuubi is retreating, and Anbu Solidar said while appearing next to him. It was true the fox was retreating, but it would probably be back. The young Hokage looked up to see a ball of fire descend from the earth and land in the forest. With Kyuubi gone, Yondaime had the strangest feeling that he should go to that area like it was calling out to him. Yo kid, that was pretty lucky for that meteor to land here, huh? Scared that fox right away. Yondaime's sensei spoke, who was none other than Jiraiya of the legendary 3. Jiraiya Kyuubi will return, most likely to regroup and come at us with full force, the former Hokage Sarutobi said while looking at Yondaime, seeing his weird look. Yondaime, however, wasn't listening and sped up towards the meteor strike as fast as possible. Damn that kid and his stupid godspeed, Jiraiya muttered while running after his former student with his former sensei following him. When they reached the site, they could find that the area was completely lit in fire and that there was some strange green rocks. Jiraiya started shaking when he saw a strange object in the middle of the crater. Yondaime, being as brave as he was, slowly stepped forward and the object seemed to open up like a door. Vast amount of steam seemed to seep out of the door, and when it cleared they saw a little baby waking up. He had the bluest eyes anyone could see and his hair was blonde as Yondaime's. Yondaime on instinct picked up the child and cradled him. He was wrapped in a red cloak with an S symbol. Sarutobi plucked some courage and looked inside the alien object to see it looked like it was shutting down. Everything was written in a strange language except for a strange-looking paper that was written in another language different from the ones on craft. Core L, Jiraiya said while looking at the piece of paper. Both shinobis looked at him like he had grown another head. What? It's written in English. You do know I know how to speak English. I had to have my Make Out Paradise translated for my Western audience. Besides, I think it's the kid's name. Jiraiya spoke while picking up the piece of paper. Yondaime looked around to see anything or one else but found no one. Jiraiya-sensei, could you please pick up this craft and hide somewhere in the Hokage Tower? I am going to take this baby and bring to my personal room to see if he's okay. Yondaime spoke while rushing off towards his tower. Sarutobi looked up to the sky and spoke. A child from the stars, is this omen for good or evil? The wizened Hokage spoke while Jiraiya covered the craft in a jutsu and ran towards. Jiraiya looked at his former sensei and prompted not to reply. There was still some bad blood between them and it all stemmed from the snake Orochimaru. As Yondaime reached towards the tower, he rushed to his medical room to find his girlfriend there. Her name was Hyuga Rei and she was an expert in medical jutsu. Unfortunately, she was terminally ill and would die in a matter of weeks from a degenerative disease. She saw her boyfriend carry in a small bundle to see it was a child. Rei, this child I rescued from the forest, could you please take a blood sample of his and give him a medical check? Yondaime spoke as her girlfriend walked over to the boy with a needle. She saw how cute the little blonde boy was and it melted her heart to see such an innocent boy. He looked up with a smile and giggled at Hyuga. Sorry sweetie, but this is going to hurt a little, but it will be over really quick. Hyuga Rei brought out a syringe to draw some blood, but as she got closer to the boy the needle seemed to curl up as it hit his skin. The blonde boy looked up and started smiling and laughing at Rei's shocked face. Yondaime, who was looking at the whole event, had his jaw hanging open at the boy's tough skin. Rei quickly used another needle to see the same thing happening. Yondaime couldn't believe what he was seeing and walked slowly over to the boy and brought a kunai. Rei looked at her boyfriend bring a kunai slowly to the blonde boy's wrist to slowly prick his hand. But when the young Hokage slowly pushed his kunai against the blonde boy's open palm, the kunai started to split into two slowly and slowly. Dear, where did you find this boy? Is this some kind of bloodline limit? Rei asked with a bit of fear. While the blonde child brought his feet to his mouth and started sucking of his toes with an innocent look on his face. No, he came from the meteor landing. The boy is from the stars. Yondaime spoke while looking at his Rei with a small smile when he looked at his girlfriend's eyes. Rei, use your Byakugan on the boy and tell me what you see. Rei slowly turned on her white eyes to see. Honey, he doesn't have any chakra pathways. Rei said with amazement, because every human had chakra pathways, one who were civilians had very limited ones. Yondaime shouted a huge yes and started to bring out an ink and paintbrush and mark the boy's belly in a strange seal. Honey, do you think this is right, subjecting this child to a demon he's going to grow up without love? Rei said with a sadness laced in her voice. What are you talking about? This boy will be seen as a hero for keeping this demon locked away. Yandaime spoke with a huge grin. Rei shook her head at her boyfriend's unshakable trust for this village, but she knew how cruel human beings were. Besides, only this child could harbor the demon. Because of its vast amount of power, the Kyuubi's chakra would slowly kill a human baby, and by its 5th birthday the Kyuubi will escape and kill again. Yandaime spoke in a whisper while doing the intricate pattern of the seal. Because this child has no coils and seems to have tough skin, it will be able to hold it for all his life. My jutsu was only completed very recently, and I never knew that it would kill a human child. It only needs 10 years to permanently seal the creature away forever. Yandaime finished saying while looking at the baby with sadness. I am sorry to place such a huge burden on you, little one, but I can tell you have come to our home for a reason. You are destined for great things, little one. Yandaime spoke while feeling a familiar chakra coming towards Konoha. My love, you must not tell anyone who he really is. Even though we will not live that much longer, I have to tell you I love you so very much. Yandaime spoke while kissing his girlfriend. The great Hokage said his last goodbyes as he ran to the battlefield. Yandaime had sealed the demon and knew there was no way back for the demon, and his fate had been sealed. One thing Yandaime did say was when he was falling was, "Forgive me, Core L of the stars." Jiraiya and Sarutobi were looking at the bundle that was the Kyuubi vessel. They had to come up with a name, and using his alien name would make him look odd. So they had decided to name him Uzumaki Naruto. No one would know his heritage but 2 people. Naruto's destiny, however, was uncertain, and only time would tell. Rei had told Sandaime Hokage of Naruto's tough skin and listed it as a bloodline limit for the records if anyone ever got suspicious. Jiraiya was confused, however, when Yandaime used the jutsu on Naruto and placed Kyuubi inside of him that Naruto show any physical traits. He looked as normal as he was a few minutes ago. Usually a demon vessel takes on their demon's characteristics, but Naruto didn't. The only would be he wasn't human. But one thing they all thought of was what was he? Sarutobi would keep an eye on the young boy and to see if he express an unusual behavior. What kind of name is Core L anyways? Jiraiya asked while looking at his former sensei. What do you expect? He isn't human after all, so what do you accept him to be named Kai or something? Sarutobi asked his former student. Yeah, that's true, but tell me this, if he isn't human, what is he? Jiraiya asked the million Ryu question that plagued both their minds. A 12-year-old Naruto was running to school as fast he could. He was going to be late for his introduction into becoming a genin. Naruto looked at the villagers' hateful glares and finally understood why they hated him so much. It was that damn Kyuubi staying in his belly. As Naruto walked into the classroom, he could tell everyone was shocked that he made it as a genin, but he really didn't care as long as he was ninja. These guys could speculate all they want. Naruto knew that he had bad chakra control and that it pulled him down, but with new technique, the shadow replication jutsu, he was going to show everyone how strong he really was. Naruto then saw that damn cool Sasuke act like he was the king of the world. God, he really hated that, but then he saw the girl he had a crush on. Her name was Yamanaka Ino, and she was probably the best looking girl in the whole village. But she never noticed him, always that damn Uchiha. Naruto wanted to stab his knee because of the attention she gave him. Stab my knee, yeah right, like I draw any blood or feel any pain, Naruto thought to himself. Ever since he could remember, he had always had tough skin and never ever cut himself. Hell, he never actually bled in his entire life, which kind of scared. When he asked the old man if it was Kyuubi yesterday, he started to get a weird face and told him maybe it was. Now Naruto wasn't an idiot or a genius, but he knew something was up. No one had even told him where he came from. He even researched about his name and family tree, he got nothing. Because he couldn't draw blood, he was stuck speculating. Naruto wanted more than even being Hokage, was to find out who he really was and who his parents were. He had to find out, so he would ask the old man as soon as possible and try getting some info. One thing Naruto did know was not to go to Crater Forest. There was some really weird green rock that made him feel so weak and exhausted. Only when he moved away did he feel any better. Iruka-sensei was about to tell him his 3-man squad and who his Junin-sensei was. Naruto was starting to get really excited, his dream slowly starting to become true. Okay, Team 7 will consist of Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke and Yamanaka Ino. Iruka announced to the whole class. Naruto could have jumped for joy, but with that bastard Sasuke on his team, it would be hell on earth. That bastard was better at him than everything and he got so much attention. However, Naruto wasn't a hater, he admired him for that, for being loved by everyone in the village. But why did that bastard throw away all that love? Why did want to be alone? Loneliness was one of the worst feelings in the world. Why did Sasuke want to immerse himself into that pool of sadness? A worried Naruto walked into the third's office, waiting outside his door. Every time he wanted to know about his family, he would freeze and run away. Back then he thought that the reason everyone hated him was because he came from a hated clan or his parents were mass murderers. The thumping of his heart increased and Naruto's palms grew sweaty. It was now or never. Naruto couldn't keep running from his past. No, he had to face the music now. Or he would be away running forever. Naruto knocked on the door to wait for Sandaime Hokage to allow him in. Sarutobi waited patiently for Naruto to enter. Every month Naruto would come to his office and run away. He knew the boy was curious about his past and the old Hokage thought that it was time he knew who he was. He didn't want for Naruto to do something that scared him and make him run away. Naruto was entering puberty and who knows what powers he could show. Usually when a body and mind develop they show their true abilities. Right now Naruto was impervious to any metal object or any other denser material except for the green meteorite. He knew Naruto's weakness and made sure that the green meteorite was to be collected and buried not far from Konoha. "Ah Naruto, what brings you to my office? I trust you are satisfied with your team and sensei?" Sandaime asked with a kind voice. "Yeah old man, my team is good but my damn sensei was 3 hours late. What's up with that? I thought Junins were supposed to lead by example." A peeved off Naruto asked with a pout. "Well Naruto, Kakashi has a tendency to be late to everything, try not to be too mad at him," Sandaime said with a fatherly smile that gave Naruto a great feeling that this person loved every single person in this village. Naruto however started to think back to his meeting and what Kakashi-sensei asked him. "My dream is to become the greatest Hokage this village has ever seen and to find out about my parents and who I really am." Naruto needed to know about his past but he didn't notice the strange stare the Ino was giving him. According to Ino, Naruto was probably the most mysterious boy in the whole academy, even more than her Sasuke-kun. She would have to wait and see who Uzumaki Naruto really was. "Old man, I think it's time you told me about my past," Naruto said with hint of quiver in his voice. Sarutobi looked at Naruto and knew Naruto was always blunt. "Naruto, I hope you're ready for this because if you're not, heaven help us all." "Naruto, sit down, this going to be long," Sarutobi said while Naruto sat down. "Naruto, you know that Kyuubi attacked Konoha 12 years ago, however what you don't know was that on the same night we had a meteor strike that made Crater Forest." Sarutobi began explaining, looking at Naruto's face for any sign of comprehension. "You see Naruto, when Yondaime, my student Jiraiya and I went to investigate, we found a strange object which turned out to be a space vessel. In it we found a baby. That baby was you Naruto?" Sarutobi finished explaining. Naruto seemed to freeze and not say anything and burst out laughing. "Ha ha 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 ha, you know something old man, that story is so crazy that it can only be true." As Naruto was laughing he had started crying towards the end of Sarutobi's speech. "So I guess I really am a freak old man," Naruto let out while letting the floodgates open up and release fresh salty tears. Sandaime got up and gave Naruto a hug so that he could let all of his 12 years of pent-up frustration out. When Naruto calmed down he was looking down. "So old man, is that why Yondaime put the fox in me, because I was the only who could keep it in?" Naruto asked with a bit of hope in his eyes. "Yes Naruto, that's why. You were a miracle from the heavens itself," Sarutobi said to Naruto. The old Hokage went behind his desk and fished out a circular disc and handed it to the Kyuubi container. "Here you go Naruto, this is from the looks of it some sort of key to your vessel. It's in that room there. I have already released the seals on it so it's safe to go. And one more thing Naruto, if I ever hear you call yourself a freak I will personally make you go back to the academy," Sarutobi said while smiling and giving Naruto a key, his past. As Naruto looked at the foreign object he looked at it like it was his lifeline. He quickly thanked the old man and tore off to the sealed room. "Naruto, before you go, know this. You're sent here for a reason and that's for you to do great things. Remember that Naruto?" Sarutobi said as Naruto walked to the door into his past. Naruto looked around to see that his vessel was sitting there doing nothing. Holding the circular disc in his hand he quietly and slowly over to the ship, his heart beating at an incredible pace. Naruto looked at the oddly shaped ship and wondered if that thing actually flew him here or the old man was playing an April Fool's joke a bit too early. He set the key into place and the ship seemed to come alive. Lights flashing everywhere until it stopped and a voice started to speak. Even thought Naruto knew this wasn't Japanese, he could understand the language perfectly. The voice was of a man and Naruto heard him speak. "Hello my son, my name is Zor-El, I am your father." The voice spoke out and Naruto crawled over to the ship, not wanting to miss a second of his father's voice. "Right now you are most likely on Earth, a primitive planet compared to our planet Krypton." Naruto listened to the voice tell him about his planet. "By now I am long dead by many of your Earth years. You see, even in our vast knowledge of the universe we did not even comprehend our own destruction. But my elder brother Jor-El, the smartest man on Krypton, found out that our planet would be destroyed because its unstable geographical nature." The voice to Naruto growing sadder and sadder by each word. But Naruto heard pride when he talked about his brother. "Kor-El, my son, the council did not believe us and called my brother a fool. Of course I believed my brother because he made me the man I was. My son, I quickly made 2 ships that could transport you to Earth. Naruto thought it was weird. He said he made 2 ships that would mean. Yes, my son, you have a twin sister named Kara. I had to make a ship so that you could be sent to Earth. Luckily for me, Jor-El and I worked on ships that would transport you, your sister, and your cousin Kal-El. But I wasn't as brilliant as your uncle. I had to make do with a ship that would take 7 years to reach Earth. In that time you would have grown up to be too big for the ship and die. The voice told Naruto, who was shocked that he had a sister and a cousin. So I put in both your ship's stasis modules, which would help you stay young as a newborn baby, but that would make the ship slow down, taking 10 years to reach Earth. Even though that would leave your ship ready for attack, that was the only way for you to survive. Naruto now understood why he was so young when he came to Earth. Jor-El's son Kal-El would have reached Earth far quicker than you, but for your sister I am not sure, my son, as this message is automated and I do not know the outcome of your journey. Naruto looked down. His father's words crushed his hope of finding his sister. However, Kor-El, Jor-El and I have accumulated the universe's knowledge and put it into Kal-El's ship. His ship contains the birthing matrix, which I could not produce in short amount of time. But know this: the power of the yellow sun or star gives you power over men, which would make you a god, but you must not use them for evil purposes. Naruto looked up. At least he knew that his cousin was alive. He smiled as well, knowing that his father was a nice man, and told him not to use his powers for hurting. Have faith, my son, your sister is not gone. She will meet with you, as I have given her the same message about you. Remember, you have great power? Naruto had a big smile at his father's words. Reasons I have sent you here will be in the crystal Kal-El has, as this is the last. Quickly, Allura, there's no time, say your goodbyes. The voice started to get static and Naruto grew panicked by his father's words being cut off. My baby Kor-El, know that I love you so much and will always be with you. Then the voice grew silent as Naruto looked at the ship switching off. Naruto didn't notice the tears streaming down his face. He didn't know if they were of happiness or sadness. Naruto stayed sitting down for a long time, just starting into nothingness. All his questions he had were answered, but the answers raised even more question that Naruto didn't want at the moment. Life was starting to pick for Naruto, and now life decided to throw him a curveball that turned his world upside down. Naruto looked at his ship that was powering down. He had learned that he came from a very powerful race and the home planet was destroyed. His father's name was Zor-El and his mother was Allura. But there were still 2 other survivors, his sister and his cousin. Naruto had a smile on his face. He wasn't alone, but his dream now grew bigger. He would find out about where his cousin and sister were and what his other powers were. He was Kor-El of Krypton and his adventure was only just beginning. He couldn't wait for what was in store for him. D-rank mission were what Team 7 were plagued with for 2 months, and to say they were pissed off would be the understatement of the year. Naruto, though, kept his Kryptonian heritage a secret from everyone. It didn't matter really, because he didn't have many friends, or if any. He just wondered where his cousin and sister were. He had found out that there were no other meteor strikes other than the one in Konoha for 50 years in Japan. So that meant they had to be somewhere else. Naruto's thoughts were broken when the blonde beauty known only as Yamanaka Ino walked next to him. Currently they were waiting for Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke to arrive, so that left both of them alone. Naruto could never pluck the courage to ask her out. Even though he had the biggest crush on her, he just never could ask her out. Instead, he and Ino had sort of love-hate relationship, mostly hate from Ino. Well, I guess it's just you and me, whisker marks, but hey, I chose you over forehead girl anytime. Ino replied teasingly with a big smirk. She loved to piss of Naruto because he was so easy to rile up. Whatever, ribs, I know you love my company, Naruto replied back with a smirk. But inside he just hoped that she really loved his company and maybe declares her undying love for him. Please, Uzumaki, I rather hang out with a dead skunk than you, Ino replied while looking away. Naruto, however, was hurt inside that she wouldn't want to stay in his company. Luckily Naruto was spared of more verbal abuses from Ino, as the ever-cool Sasuke came striding in like he owned the whole of Konoha. Ino, seeing her beloved Sasuke-kun had arrived, proceeded to bore his brain out with inane babble. Naruto just looked on in jealousy. What the hell does Uchiha have that I don't? He doesn't deserve Ino-chan, Naruto thought bitterly. Naruto kept staring holes at the Uchiha and wished he could burn his skull right through with some heat ray vision. Naruto wondered if maybe there was some kind of jutsu that could do that. Naruto was broken out of his chain of thoughts when the lazy Junin, known only as Hitaki Kakashi, arrived and provided one of his lame-ass excuses. Sorry I am late guys, but you see, Kakashi went to respond but was cut off by angry shouts of, Lair, and, give me a break. Naruto couldn't believe that a Junin would actually do something as stupid as this. Kakashi told them that they would be going mission office to receive a glorious D-rank mission. Naruto, however, had other plans to this. He would give the old man a piece of his mind if he gave them a crappy mission. When they reached the office, the three genins heard the old Hokage tell them the next mission details. But Naruto couldn't take it and quickly protested, saying that shinobis like them shouldn't do crappy boring missions. Even though they wouldn't admit it, Sasuke and Ino were glad Naruto was brave enough to shout at the Hokage. Well, if you have performed a lot of mission as of late, so I don't see why you shouldn't be able to perform a simple C-rank mission, Sandaime Hokage said while looking at the jumping Naruto. Naruto stood near the gates with his two teammates, and as usual Ino was being the obsessive fangirl. Naruto just stood alone, writhing in anger at how Sasuke could ignore her so much. Naruto knew this would be his chance to impress Ino and show her he was much better than Sasuke. He couldn't wait to show how powerful he was. Naruto looked up to the sky and waited for Kakashi to arrive with the annoying bridge builder who mocked him about his size. Naruto saw the two coming their way and knew that this journey was just getting started. Team 7 and the bridge builder started to walk out of the village and onto their destination. Their mission was to protect the bridge builder Tazuna from any harm on his way back to his home. Naruto, though, didn't know where this land was and never really paid attention in class when they did geography. Kakashi opted to explain as Ino didn't want to explain to the Dobi. Naruto just growled at being called dead last. As they were walking, Naruto was blissfully unaware of the danger that lurked behind him. Behind Naruto and the group was a puddle in the blazing sun with clear skies. Suddenly two chained shinobi up to Kakashi and shredded him into nothing. Naruto, though, started to panic when he saw his sensei killed in a matter of seconds. It didn't help that the chained shinobi's clawed weapons were made out of green meteor rock that came from his planet. Naruto knew that these rocks were harmful to him ever since the first time he came in contact with one. Naruto started to feel woozy and couldn't maintain his balance and collapsed onto one knee. Naruto was just barely able to dodge one of the shinobi's claws, but it did its job by slashing him in the hand and drawing blood. Naruto stumbled onto the floor, clutching his hand and feeling immense pain. Naruto hated going near meteor rocks, because it was like poison to him if he stayed too long. His rival Sasuke luckily saved Naruto. Sasuke using his expert shinobi skills to confuse the shinobis. It wasn't long before Kakashi came out of his hiding place to knock out the mist shinobi effortlessly. Ino, who was guarding Tazuna, couldn't help but mutter, "Show off," as Kakashi made such a cool entrance. "Good work, Sasuke and Ino, you showed true strength and shinobi skill," Kakashi told the two young shinobi. Kakashi's eyes trailed to Naruto, who was clutching his hand. Kakashi couldn't help but feel disappointed at Naruto's reaction. Kakashi expected Ino to freeze up more than Naruto. But Kakashi knew that Naruto was all talk and still hadn't really proven his strength to him. Naruto, though, never felt so useless and weak in his entire life. Naruto could have blamed it on the meteor rocks but knew that he had frozen up before he felt the effects. Just to be on the safe side, Naruto took steps back from the mist shinobi. "Sorry I took so long, guys, but I had to make sure who these shinobi were after. But first let me look at your hand, Naruto. I don't know what those shinobi's claws were made out of." Kakashi spoke to Naruto in a low voice. The copy ninja walked up to Naruto and took a hold of his hand. Kakashi looked shocked at what he saw. Naruto's hand was completely healed. The only thing that remained was the blood that came from the healed wound. Is this the power of Kyuubi? Kakashi thought to himself. Kakashi wordlessly wrapped a bandage around Naruto's hand and told him to act like it was still a wound. Naruto, though, knew it wasn't Kyuubi at all but his Kryptonian powers. But that didn't stop Sasuke and Ino from making feel like a loser. What Sasuke said made him feel anger, but Ino's comments made him feel like a real loser. "Well, Naruto, I guess you're just all talk. Makes sense though, because you failed the Genin exams so many times," Ino said to Naruto in an annoyed voice. Ino, though, didn't see the hurt look that struck Naruto's face. Naruto knew he would have to pick up the pace, and quickly. Team 7 were currently on a boat towards the Wave Village. The mission had been bumped up from a C rank to a B, A rank mission. It had taken some convincing that Naruto and company would be able to handle the mission. According to the bridge builder, those missing mist shinobi were after him because of his plan to build the bridge. Naruto really didn't get all the details down, but he knew that some evil company owner wanted the bridge builder dead. Naruto had been silent the whole trip on the boat, and Kakashi was worried that Naruto might not be able to carry out the mission. But when Naruto turned and gave Kakashi a cheesy grin with a thumbs up, Kakashi couldn't help but smile. Somehow Naruto would pull through and be able to show his worth. Naruto, though, was currently thinking how those mist shinobi were able to get meteor rocks, or kryptonite as Naruto started to call it. Ino coincidentally was thinking the same thing, and how those missing nins were able to obtain that green rock. It was bad luck in Konoha to be seen holding the rocks. It was seen as a sign that Kyuubi was attracted to those rocks and the must be evil. There was something strange about Uzumaki Naruto. The entire village hated him, yet he didn't seem like the person you would hate. Ino didn't hate the boy but just found him incredibly annoying and liked to annoy him as well. The boy was a bigger mystery than Sasuke and Kakashi combined, and Ino was determined to find out why. Ino loved a challenge and was also a natural busybody and loved to find out mysteries. But Ino was broken out of her thoughts as the boat slowly started to reach land. The small boat eventually reached the thick misted shore. It was a miracle that they even made it to land, as all you could see was water and thick fog. Team 7 along with Tazuna got of the boat and tried to thank their courier, but his was already paddling his boat away with speed. Well, that's rude of him. I mean, not even a goodbye. Wonder why he's so scared, Naruto said in a typical Naruto fashion with his eyes squinted and hands behind his head. Everyone looked at Naruto and sighed out loud and started to walk towards the village of Wave. Naruto looked at his teammates in a confused fashion and started to run off their direction. Naruto was walking slowly, taking up the rear, hoping he could get an advantage if the enemy attacked. The forest area was lush green with trees growing tall and plants growing freely with rainbow colors. Thankfully the fog no longer seemed to be around and you could see where you were walking. Naruto threw a kunai towards his right. He had heard a slight rustle come from the bushes. Of course Naruto was being berated by Ino for acting cool when he was wrong. But Kakashi felt something wrong in the air and tell. Everyone duck. Kakashi shouted to Team 7 and Tazuna, who jumped for cover. Out of the trees a huge sword came spinning out, slicing above them and lodging itself in a thick barked tree. Team 7 got up to see a man who looked to have a fetish for rapping standing on the sword. Naruto got up as quickly as possible and knew this would be his chance to shine, but... Everyone surround Tazuna now. This man is beyond your level. I guess I have to use this straight away. Kakashi told his subordinates and muttered the end to himself. Oh, now I know why the Demon Brothers failed. It's an honor copycat Kakashi. The bandaged shinobi remarked at Kakashi. Naruto was miffed that he wouldn't be able to shine and saw this was his opportunity to shine. Naruto really didn't care for the commentary that was going on between Kakashi and the Mummy Man. Sasuke learned that this man was a famous shinobi for the hidden village of Mist until he decided to hold a mutiny. Ino was slightly worried that this crazed-looking man would do something irrational and someone would die. Well, Zabuza, shall we get this underway? Kakashi said while waiting for Zabuza to make the first move. Of course Zabuza did make the first move and the entire area was covered in mist. There was zero visibility around and the shinobi had to rely on their other senses. It wasn't long before Kakashi and Zabuza went at it and fought like good shinobi should. Regrettably their battle couldn't be seen by anyone, but he could hear the sounds of metal against metal. Naruto though looked to his right to see his teammate Sasuke look like he was going to kill himself. Don't worry Sasuke, I won't let my comrades die. Naruto heard Kakashi speak to Sasuke through the mist. But it was too late. Naruto felt the presence of Zabuza behind him. The rookie genin didn't even have a chance to figure out how he got behind him as Kakashi made quick work of him. By stabbing Zabuza it was revealed that he was a water clone, a very common mist technique. The battle however took a turn for the worse in Team 7's favor. Kakashi mistimed Zabuza's attack and found himself kicked towards the water where Zabuza trapped him in a bubble of water. Kakashi looked around his bubble to see what he was in. From the description Zabuza gave him it looked like he was trapped, but Zabuza had to be touching the bubble to keep it intact. The genins of Team 7 looked around to see the mist had somewhat began to thin out. The team looked towards the lake to see that Kakashi had become trapped in some sort of water-based jutsu. Everyone, this is an order, take Tazuna and run as far away as you can. Kakashi shouted at his subordinates. Zabuza laughed his head off and looked towards Kakashi. Ha 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 ha, you think these brats will escape? I'll kill them before they can even move. Zabuza jokingly told Kakashi, who didn't seem to smile at all but looked scared for his comrades. Hey, we aren't sacred of that eyebrowless freak, we can take him, right guys? Naruto said to his teammates who looked certain that they wouldn't run away. Even with Kakashi's best efforts to tell them to go, Team 7 looked adamant that they wouldn't back down. Zabuza smiled to himself as he created a water clone to take down these rookie genin. Naruto knew he couldn't screw up or get scared, but Sasuke beat him to the punch, as he was the first one to attack the clone. Naruto stayed back and watched as Sasuke fared against the homicidal manic water clone. The Uchiha Avenger let out a flurry of well-executed taijutsu maneuvers. Unfortunately the raven-haired genin was just too slow for the water clone and was kicked away with ease. Sasuke though didn't give up and kept attacking the clone. The fog around the area wasn't as bad as before, but visibility was still quite low. Ino couldn't make out Kakashi in the water, but she knew she had to guard Tazuna in case a water clone might attack them. Ino could only watch as Sasuke was tossed around like a used rag doll. Naruto saw his opportunity for attack and took it when Sasuke's well-timed taijutsu moves were easily stopped. Naruto charged right in and used his only useful technique. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique. 20 Narutos appeared around the fog-heavy area and surrounded the demon of the mist and charged Zabuza. Shadow Clone Technique, not bad, but that won't help the boy whatsoever, Zabuza said in a purely evil tone. One by one each clone was effectively chopped down by Zabuza's big sword and stood very little chance. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't realize how quickly his shadow clones were defeated and was smashed across the grassy field.
Now this is where you end, Naruto heard a voice whisper above him as he slowly looked up to see the water clone swing his sword at him. Naruto quickly as he could, raised his arm to block the sword. To Naruto it was like the whole event was in slow motion. The blade reached Naruto's sleeve, effectively cutting his jumpsuit sleeve.
Naruto. Ino shouted out Naruto's name, frantically hoping that saying his name would magically destroy the water clone. Naruto saw the blade reach his skin and as it hit the clone turned into water. Everyone around the area had a look of pure shock. Zabuza couldn't believe his eyes. The water clone was easily defeated by the kid who did absolutely nothing. Kakashi though was worried. He had never seen a shinobi have that kind of power. What was that? Does Kyuubi have something to do with that? Kakashi thought to himself. It didn't make sense. He saw Naruto easily cut by those other mist shinobi. Or was it another forbidden technique from the scroll of sealing? Naruto looked at his arm to see nothing, not even a scratch. The only victim was his sleeve. Naruto couldn't be more thankful for his Kryptonian powers, even though that's the only one that manifested. Naruto looked up to see Zabuza make one more clone. Naruto knew the only way to stop him was to free Kakashi-sensei. So he came up with an ingenious plan to set him free. Okay people, I am going to skip this fight in part mainly because I can't be bothered. It's been a long time since I knew what happened and it will take too long, besides this won't move the story forwards. Naruto sighed out loud when that creepy mist shinobi was taken away. Naruto was still mad that the masked guy was so strong. He couldn't believe it, the guy could only be a couple of years older than him. Naruto though didn't have time to contemplate the masked kid as Kakashi fell flat on the floor because of chakra depletion. Luckily they were near the village and didn't have to travel that far with their collapsed teacher. Yamanaka Ino sighed as she felt the hot water seep onto her as she slowly got into the tub. The whole team was able to reach Tezuna's house and put Kakashi onto a bed. Because it was so late and Tezuna had reached just moments ago, they were taking it easy. Ino quickly rushed to the bathroom to have a quiet dip in the tub. Ino however couldn't stop thinking about the battle and how Naruto survived that sword swing. Another thing that was bugging Ino was when she shouted out Naruto's name in distress. Ino never liked Naruto back in the academy and now having him in her team really bugged the crap out of her. He showed his worth when he went down so easily against those claws-bearing shinobi. However, she was shocked when he came up with a very clever plan to set Kakashi free. Not only did he come up with the plan, he showed his ability as well to work with Sasuke. Maybe there was hope for the loudmouth shinobi. But she wanted to know why Naruto reacted so weirdly against those shinobi and how he was able to stop the blade from cutting him into pieces. Ino knew there was something defiantly up with Naruto and she intended to find out what it was. Sasuke looked up at the ceiling of the house after having a satisfied meal. It had been a long time since he had a home-cooked meal. Sasuke usually just ordered out or have some instant food in his fridge or cupboard. Even though the quality of vegetables and meat was not as good as Konoha's ones, it still tasted lovely. He could tell when someone puts their heart into cooking a meal, it will taste good. Thinking about a home-cooked meal made him remember about his family, or more about his brother. Sasuke curled his hand into a fist and gritted his teeth. He had to have revenge. It was the only thing that mattered to him. His life was already a waste and he needed to kill the man that ruined his life. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz. Sasuke looked to his right to see the prone figure of Hitaki Kakashi snoring. It seemed he had suffered chakra exhaustion from overusing the Sharingan. That was one of things bothering the Uchiha survivor. How was it that his sensei had the Sharingan eye? Sasuke, however, was cut off by his thoughts. Hey Sasuke, I heard people say that chefs have found a ramen that actually burns fat. Naruto asked the Uchiha Avenger. Sasuke sighed and couldn't help but think that Naruto really was an idiot. Naruto, who was waiting for Sasuke's reply, couldn't wait for the next morning. Naruto sat exhausted against a tree while he looked at Sasuke running up and scratching his tree. Team 7 started to do the tree climbing exercise because Kakashi had worries that Zabuza may still be alive. So they needed to prepare, and because of that Kakashi would be guarding Tezuna and the rest of Team 7 were doing training. Naruto looked woefully up at Ino, who was sitting on a very high branch smiling down at the two boys. Ino may have an infatuation with the Uchiha survivor, but she took pride that she grasped this exercise quicker than both boys. Naruto looked at his hands in disgust. He knew his body was never adapted to use chakra. That's why the fourth sealed that furball inside him. But Naruto wouldn't give up even if it were the last thing he did. Naruto looked up and let his body soak up the rays of the sun ever since he could remember. Whenever he felt exhausted, if he stayed under the sun, his energy came back. Naruto, now fully recharged, grabbed his kunai and proceeded to run up his tree. Ino, who had stopped doing the exercise on account that she was dead tired, looked towards Naruto to see him continue the exercise. How can he have so much chakra and energy? It makes no sense. He's going up that tree like he hasn't been up before, Ino thought to herself as she saw Naruto run up with new vigor. She looked towards Sasuke, who seemed to be tired as well but wasn't going to openly show it. Well gang, I think that's enough exercise for today. Ino, you'll be guarding Tazuna tomorrow, seeing as you have already completed the exercise. Kakashi spoke to the group as he emerged from the woods on crutches. Naruto and Sasuke, you guys will stay and complete the exercise tomorrow. For now, let's go back and rest, Kakashi told his remaining students as he started to walk back towards the house. Even though Naruto wanted to stay, he knew he had to get some food and more importantly rest. I guess Naruto, I am better than you, huh? Ino said in a mocking voice, ready to start a nice argument with Naruto. One thing Ino had to admit was that she liked to push Naruto's buttons. Even thought it was easy. There was another side that most people didn't see. Naruto would usually say lowbrow insults, but with Ino it was quite funny and clever. She never knew why Naruto did that with her. The only reason why you were able to run up like that was because you weigh less than air, Naruto replied back, thinking it was the best insult in the world. Oh, so that must mean that big head of yours makes you fail that exercise? Ino said with small smile. Kakashi and Sasuke looked at each other and sighed out loud. They could never get Ino and Naruto to stop arguing. And I say a monkey can make ramen. Sasuke and Kakashi walked in while hearing Naruto shout out from behind him. Ah, you're back, good dinner is ready. The whole team heard Tsunami tell them, and that effectively shut up Naruto and Ino. The whole team plus the family ate the meal in considerable silence. The boy Inari as always had his meal and quickly left. Ever since his shouting match with Naruto, he didn't say much during the meal. Naruto didn't pursue the boy. He knew what meant to be alone and scared, but the kid had to overcome this himself. Naruto just sighed out loud while eating his food. He would have to build his strength so he would be able to stand against that mummy freak from Mist. Naruto looked around the table to see he was the only one left, so immersed in his own thoughts that he didn't realize everyone had left the table. Naruto, though, didn't feel tired or sleepy, so instead went outside to do his favorite pastime. As Naruto reached the roof of the house, he looked up to see the stars shining back at him. Ever since he found out his heritage, Naruto couldn't help but think about the other Kryptonian survivors. Also, he thought if he was an alien to this planet, then there could be other species out there. I guess I'm not the only who couldn't sleep. Naruto heard a voice call out from behind him to see Ino standing there. Naruto couldn't help but fight the blush on his face as Ino looked absolutely breathtaking in the moonlight. He quickly averted his gaze and looked back up. Ino walked slowly up to him and sat next to him. Naruto still didn't look at her. Instead, they spent a few minutes in silence looking up at the stars. Sometimes when I'm confused or angry, I just go to a real secluded place and look up at the stars, Naruto whispered out loud. Ino looked at Naruto with shock. She never knew Naruto could actually say something like that. She looked down when she remembered that he was an orphan and that he must have done a lot of times. None of the other kids actually realized how bad they were, but because he always shrugged it off and acted tough, they didn't think they were hurting him. That's one thing Ino took pride in, that she never made fun of him behind his back. She always gave slight jabs at him so he could retaliate. Ino hated those people who talked about people behind their backs. It made them look like downright cowards. Hey Ino, do you believe in destiny? Naruto asked Ino, who seemed a bit shocked that he would ask such a question. Naruto looked at Ino, who was still looking up at the night sky. After a while, Naruto got the hint she didn't want to answer the question as she got up and started to walk back. I believe that we can control our own fates and to a certain degree our destiny. It's our will that can defy destiny, nothing else. If you have belief, hope and the willpower, there's nothing you can't do. Ino replied back with a small smile back at him. Ino started to walk back, but as she opened the door she let out a final bit of her wisdom. I'd sooner believe we can't defy our destiny than I would believe that you're an alien, Ino said with mirth as she walked away from Naruto. Any normal person would have laughed, but Naruto just looked down and sighed. Naruto hated to keep secrets but knew he had, out of fear on how they would react and to protect them. Naruto, though, didn't know that his life was going to become a huge struggle. Naruto couldn't believe he overslept and now he paid the price of being lazy. He was running back to the Tazuna's house after seeing those chopped trees in the forest. Luckily, he just got in time to swap Tsunami for a log. Inari smiled when he appeared. It seemed the kid needed time to get adjusted to him. Naruto looked at the samurai as they turned around with their swords gleaming. Naruto would have dodged the blades but had a better idea. He wanted to test the limit of his body's skin. The samurai bodyguards laughed as they swung the blades onto Naruto. In slow motion the katanas became broken fragments of metal scattered around the whole area. The two samurai looked at their broken swords, then looked up at Naruto, who had a big grin on his face. As Naruto finished tying up the samurai, he congratulated Inari in defending his mother and trying to get her to be released. Naruto looked towards the direction in which the bridge was and hoped nothing had happened. Naruto looked back at the mother and son and smiled and tore off to help his friends. Naruto was running as fast as he could, but he started to notice that the area had thick fog and knew that the mummy freak was near. Naruto quickly jumped onto a branch but completely mistimed it as he went flying forwards. Naruto looked back and saw that he jumped 100 feet. Naruto looked a bit stunned. He had never jumped that far ever in his life. If this was any other time, Naruto would have stood there and contemplated how he had done that. But Naruto needed to help his team fight those ex-mist shinobis. Sasuke looked around the wall of mirrors that seemed to surround him. Sasuke looked like he could win this fight until the masked kid started to use his bloodline limit. Sasuke already had a couple of senbon needles stuck in him after trying to dodge the masked kid who kept moving in and out of the ice mirrors. Sasuke knew he had to calm himself down and concentrate on the mirrors. It was here that Sasuke felt something strange happen to him. It was like something finally clicked and he could see the masked kid's movements more clearly. It was now much easier to fight the mist shinobi. But after a while Sasuke's chakra started to become depleted and knew that he was losing and this masked guy would kill him. "Hey, it looks like you could use my help." Sasuke looked to right to see that idiot Naruto standing there with an inside the dome of ice mirrors. Sasuke would have told Naruto how much of an idiot he was coming inside, but at least he could be of help. "Don't worry Sasuke, I will use my shadow clones while try and find a way out," Naruto said as he prepared his trademark seal. Haku looked down as he saw that kid he met in the forest. He knew he was a shinobi, but he got more from his meeting with him when he found out the kid's weakness. Flashback 2 days ago, Haku was walking through the forest near where they were staying to gather some herbs. He needed them for Zabuza, who was still injured. Even though he would in at least 2 days, he still needed to be at 100. As Haku was walking, he looked across the field and found a boy lying on the ground. He slowly walked up to the boy and set his basket on the floor. As Haku looked closer, he recognized who the boy was. It was that hyperactive genin from Konoha. He slowly brought his hand to his neck, ready to span it like a twig. But upon looking closer, he found that boy was in some kind of discomfort. Haku looked around and found the green meteorite that he had found all those years ago was glowing. He picked it out of his basket and brought it over to Naruto, who seemed to grow even more discomforted. Haku realized that Naruto must be allergic to this rock. Haku kept this rock with him at all times because he liked the rock's glow in the moonlight. Haku smiled as he put the rock away and proceeded to wake the boy. Flashback end. Haku smiled as he gathered a few green rock senbon needles. He had these specially made for that Uzumaki boy. Naruto looked up as his dozen or so clones stormed each mirror, but they were too slow as each was destroyed in a blink of an eye and Sasuke was kicked back to the middle. Naruto, though, wasn't paying attention to Haku, who sneaked up behind him and threw one needle into his back. Naruto felt pain course through his body as he felt the effects of kryptonite. He couldn't believe that this guy would make such a thing. Either he knew his weakness or he was incredibly lucky. Naruto stumbled down and pulled out the kryptonite needle and threw it away with as much strength as possible. Naruto slowly got up, but the effects of kryptonite were still affecting him as Haku threw normal senbon needles at him, which penetrated the skin somehow. As he pulled out one of the needles, Naruto looked at it to see that they were coated with a green liquid. Sasuke looked at Naruto, who seemed a bit woozy. Looked like that senbon needle was coated with some kind of drug. But Naruto knew it was kryptonite that was laced on those needles. Naruto stumbled as he kept producing shadow clones to attack the mirrors in hope that Sasuke might find a weakness. But as the battle grew on, they quickly realized that the masked boy was in complete control of the situation. That is until the masked boy made one fatal mistake. Kakashi looked towards his right as he felt a massive and horridly evil chakra spike coming from that direction. As always, he jumped to the conclusion that Kyuubi must have something to do with it. But on this occasion Kakashi was right and he would have to deal with Zabuza right away. Kakashi didn't want to think what could have made Naruto release Kyuubi's chakra, but he needed to end this now. His nin dogs had already trapped Zabuza, now all he needed to do was execute his final plan. Kakashi did a quick number of seals and brought his right hand down ready to strike Zabuza. Reikari Kakashi looked to the direction Zabuza was at and ran at him with immense speed. Kakashi was going to use his #1 assassination technique to take out the demon of the mist. Naruto looked at the lifeless body of his friend Sasuke. Even though they were never friends, Naruto felt something akin to friendship. Naruto, though, couldn't stop the anger that was boiling up inside him. One by one each needle slid out of his body and fell onto the floor. Naruto felt something powerful come out of him until his body went on autopilot and his only goal was to kill the masked kid. Haku looked down as he saw Naruto released some sort of weird chakra until each and every one of his mirrors was destroyed. Haku looked around worriedly. No one had ever been able to do that and all the kid did was release chakra. Haku would have retaliated but he felt a firm grip on his arm and looked to see the kid had almost transformed into some sort of animal. The masked shinobi tried his best to hold back the evil chakra but when a punch of immense strength hit him square on the face he went flying away. Kakashi looked up to see that someone had come in between him and Zabuza. Zabuza started to laugh and say ridiculous stuff on how Haku was the perfect weapon. Kakashi looked at his face to see the kid was already dead. Kakashi quickly jumped away from Zabuza just as he was about to strike him down with his sword. Kakashi looked up to see Zabuza ready to slice him in half. Luck however was on his side again when he saw Naruto stand between him and the blade. Zabuza didn't realize how much strength he was putting into that one slice. Naruto saw from a distance that Zabuza was going to still attack Kakashi-sensei. So he ran up to the masked shinobi and brought his left arm up to destroy one of the former legendary swordsmen of the Mist's prized blade. Zabuzas fell onto the ground in a heap as metal fragments flew around the area. Kakashi looked up in shock. He had never in all his years seen a shinobi do that. But then he smiled down and knew Naruto was one hell of a shinobi. Naruto looked at the slip that was currently in his hand. He had been nominated for the Chunin exam that was coming up in 3 weeks' time. Naruto couldn't help but feel giddy that he was going to compete in an exam that could pit him against strong shinobi. Naruto was in a secluded part of the forest doing training. Mostly trying to see how far he could jump. He now could control how far he could jump. Naruto was now walking back to his home when he felt someone tap his shoulder. Naruto turned his head around to see the wonderful yet sarcastic face of Yamanaka Ino. "Well Naruto, you smell wonderful," Ino said while grabbing her nose. Naruto gave her a withered look. Naruto didn't want to explain that he had spent the whole hour jumping through the forest.
"So what were you doing in the secluded part of the forest?" Ino asked with questioning look. Naruto looked at the object of his affection suspiciously. Naruto started to feel worried that she might have seen him do those gravity-defying jumps. Luckily Naruto was saved by her quick answer.
"Don't tell you were training at this time of day," Ino said with disbelief as she looked at her watch to see it was already 6 and the sun hadn't even set yet. Naruto looked slightly relieved when Ino came up with the answer. Ino looked at Naruto trying to find some sort of chink in the armor. Ino's gaze was diverted however when she looked at the Uchiha heartthrob. Naruto looked down in sadness and wished just one time Ino would look at him the way she looked at Sasuke. Naruto though couldn't take much more of this and walked away from Ino.
He made his way to his apartment hoping that there were at least some cups of ramen left.
Naruto knew it was rude to just leave but why did the whole town seem to love Uchiha Sasuke?
Naruto kept on walking but when he looked to the corner of his eye he could see some bearded guy lying in an alley. Naruto looked around to see if anyone was there but found no one and slowly walked up to the man. Naruto looked at the hobo who seemed to be sleeping or was just dead. The first thing Naruto noticed was that this guy was not Japanese and looked a bit like him. Naruto knew enough to know that this guy was from the West. "Oi, what are you doing lying here, man?" Naruto asked the unconscious man who was looking rather pale more than Sasuke. Naruto tried to wake the man but he seemed to be really bruised and beaten. Now if this were any other child, they would have left the man. "Your parents tell you not to talk to strangers on the streets that are apparently knocked out." But this was Uzumaki Naruto, so the Kryptonian boy dragged the man through the alley towards his apartment.
Bruce had never felt so shitty in his entire life. Some 14-year kids had beaten him up and they didn't even look strong. Bruce had thought that he knew martial arts but these guys were strong as hell. He had come here seeking training and fights. He had pulled some connections to hear about a hidden place where strong ninjas lived. But now he seemed to wake up in a place, which looked like a shithole. Bruce knew that he must have been thrown in jail.
"Hey, you're finally awake," Bruce heard a voice speak to him on his right. Naruto looked at the man who finally sat up and looked around slowly.
"I found you beaten up in an alley not far from here, are you okay?" Naruto spoke to the man who seemed to be in a daze. Naruto waited for a couple of minutes till he realized that this guy probably didn't speak Japanese. "Hey, do you even understand what I am saying?" Naruto asked the man who gave him a blank look. Naruto looked at his charcoal eyes to see he carried a lot of anger and pain behind them. Naruto was no genius, but he knew how to read people's emotions. Naruto sighed and hoped this man was all right. Naruto was sitting down on a chair next to his bed watching the man. But he started to realize that this wasn't going to talk so got up and started to walk back to his kitchen. What's your name? Naruto stopped when he heard the man speak Japanese to him. Naruto looked at the man and smiled.
The name's Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours? Naruto told the man and asked in the end. Usually Naruto would have said he was the next Hokage, but this guy probably didn't even know where he was.
My name is Wayne Bruce. Bruce told the boy whose name was Naruto. He knew it was in Japanese cultural to say the surname first and the forename last. That's why he switched his name around so he wouldn't confuse the boy. Naruto noticed that the man had switched his name around so he wouldn't confuse him. Well Bruce, I hope you like ramen, Naruto said as he walked into the kitchen to put in some cup ramen. Hee, I love saying that. Bruce chuckled as heard the boy curse out loud when he stayed to heat up water. Loud crashing noises and shouting made Bruce smile, something he hadn't done in a long time. Naruto eventually walked into the room with 2 steaming cups of ramen with chopsticks hanging out. Naruto sat down on his chair and gave the hungry Bruce the cup. Bruce though looked at the cup and couldn't help but voice his nagging thoughts. Hey kid, want your parents' mind? You know brining in a total strangers? Bruce asked in fluent Japanese. Naruto looked at the man and quickly masked his feelings and emotions. I don't have any parents, I am an orphan, Naruto replied back to the white mailman who looked angry with himself. He should have realized when he saw the crap shack this kid lived in. Bruce looked around the place to see that there were cups and pieces of clothing around the apartment. The paint on the wall was no longer yellow but a pale disgusting color. Also the paint and parts of the building were peeling off. It may not have been the most hygienic place on earth but it was livable. Bruce however had no right to judge this place as he looked like a tramp. Naruto however had forgotten the comment and was tearing into his ramen. Bruce smiled at the blonde enthusiastic boy tear into his cup of noodles and soup. Bruce was not one to pass up a hot meal and tore into his meal. He hadn't eaten in days and this fast food noodles tasted like heaven. Bruce being the curious billionaire that he was couldn't help but notice Naruto didn't look Japanese at all and the people in this village had very odd appearances. Most looked Japanese, however some looked completely different. So Bruce-san, why were you in an alley looking like you got your ass whooped? Naruto asked the bearded man who looked at Naruto with a blank look. Bruce snorted to himself. He didn't even know why he was here in the first place. He told himself that he needed to become a better fighter, but was he just looking to die? I am trying to find who I am, to see what my destiny is, Bruce said in a hoarse voice. Naruto quickly ran to his kitchen and gave Bruce a nice long glass of water. Naruto looked as the man finished his water and got off the bed. Naruto saw that he put his long coat on. Well anyways, thanks kid for the help and the meal, Bruce said as he got up and started towards the door. Naruto noticed that this couldn't be more older than 20. What was he doing in Konoha of all places? Naruto saw him turn the handle on the door and open it. Maybe we will see each other in the future, Naruto said as the man walked through the door. Bruce smiled as he heard the boy tell him an enthusiastic speech. Yeah, maybe, if you're ever in America kid give me a ring, Gotham City, Bruce said and walked away from the apartment complex. Bruce still didn't know why this kid lived by himself, but maybe if he went back to America, he could find out why. But the playboy billionaire was finally happy in a long time. The world may have been full of sick murders but there were still some good people. Maybe humanity wasn't doomed if there good humans around like that boy. But the future Dark Knight didn't know that this boy's destiny would tie with his. Naruto smiled as the man left. He went up to the door and closed it. If Naruto ever did go to America he would try and meet up with this guy. Naruto though brushed off the meeting thinking he would never go to that country. He was just helping a guy get back on his feet and get some food into him. Naruto would have to think ahead for the Chunin exam. This would be a great opportunity to test his skill and maybe finally show Ino his worth. Naruto was lagging behind both his teammates as they walked off to the forest off Doom. He was still thinking about the previous test and how he had just narrowly passed. Naruto had no skills to pass that test besides just bluffing his way. He looked forward to his team, felt huge shame and guilt build up in him. Naruto started to feel that he would hold his team back and only be a burden. Flashback. Uzumaki Naruto looked around the sea of heads and all he could hear was scribbling of pencil on paper. Naruto looked at his watch and saw that 20 minutes had already passed. There wasn't a single word on his sheet. Naruto just didn't understand a single thing on this sheet. The Kyuubi vessel looked to his left to see Chunin's smirk at the unsuspecting genin. Naruto was screwed and he would fail the first test of this damn exam. Flashback. And Naruto didn't want to remember to those events anymore. He would look to the future. This exam most likely would make him shine his quality. Ino looked back with worry at Naruto. She would never admit it, but she hated it when Naruto was sad. He had a very cute smile. Wait a sec, did I just use cute and Naruto in the same sentence? Ino quickly shook her head and quickly forgot that she ever thought of such an absurd thing. Sasuke had also noticed that Naruto was unusually quiet, however Sasuke couldn't care less for the dobi and needed to focus on becoming stronger. Naruto quickly caught up to his teammates and smiled at both of them, telling them that he was fine. Team 7 went up their gate with their own scroll in Sasuke's hands. Naruto couldn't contain the excitement that was building up inside him. They had received a scroll to protect and they would another, which would be an earth scroll, seeing that they had heaven one already. The teams looked around to wait for the signal from the examiners. Ino looked at both boys and started to get very worried. It wasn't that she didn't have confidence, but it was just the fact that she couldn't shake this terrible feeling off. She didn't know if she was being paranoid or overcautious, but something big was going to happen. Ever since the Chunin exam had been announced and the trip to Wave, her father had been very hard in training her. Flashback 2 months ago, Ino was sitting down having breakfast with her family while listening her mum go on about how much of gossip Mrs. Haruno was. Ino snorted to herself as she looked at her dad, whom smiled at her behind his mug of coffee. Ino loved these weekend breakfasts with her parents. But Ino couldn't help but feel sad that Sasuke and Naruto would be having breakfast alone. Ino-chan, after breakfast we going to the training grounds, Ino heard her father tell her as he got up and went to the back of the estate. Ever since she became a part of Team 7, she suddenly realized how spoiled she was. This revelation didn't happen overnight, it happened quickly yet slowly. Naruto was the person that opened her eyes, as well as the trip to Wave Country. It was the small yet big things Naruto did that made Ino realize how lucky she was. Like when they went to have lunch, Naruto would only have ramen. There were 2 reasons to it. 1, it was Naruto's favorite food, and 2, it was the only thing he could afford regularly. There was the time Naruto arrived to practice without any weapons, and the weapons he did buy were very rusted and blunt. Ino didn't pry any information out of him, but she knew from the look he gave Sasuke when pulled out a fresh kunai set that Naruto couldn't afford it. Also, whenever they were on a D-ranked mission, the villager would always give Naruto a tough time. At this time Ino only had theories, nothing solid or concrete. It wasn't until she went to his house to give him a note from Kakashi that training had been cancelled the whole week. Kakashi had hunted her down and told her to give this information to Sasuke and Naruto. Ino knew where Sasuke lived but didn't know where Orange Boy lived. Ino sheepishly had to ask Kakashi where he lived. She was shocked that he lived in the very poor side of Konoha. When Ino had arrived at the apartment, it was something that made her sick. The place was a mess and the building looked like it was about to fall. Ino knew ever since that day she took things for granted and that some of her comments to Naruto were insensitive and cruel. She made sure ever since that day she would become a better friend to Naruto and hopefully Sasuke. Ino chuckled to herself as she walked to training ground behind her home. She didn't think she could have ever thought her and Naruto would ever be friends. Ino saw her father leaning against a training post and smiled. Ino, I think it's time we start the real training. In a couple of weeks the Chunin exams are starting, and if you're nominated I want you prepared. Not like the wave trip, Inochi explained to his daughter, who started to nod. Ino was ready, she really needed to become stronger and not be a burden. Flashback end. Even though Ino was confident in her ability to go through this exam, she was still uncertain. Both blondes were showing that they were confident on the outside, but the inside there was a completely different story. The gates of the Forest of Doom opened up and Team 7 sprung into action. The 3 shinobi would be unaware of what would transpire during this exam. This would be the beginning of Naruto and his destiny to become one of greatest symbols of hope and justice. Naruto had this groggy feeling ever since he had woken up. The whole of Team 7 and Kabuto were walking through the forest. Naruto had never felt so out of energy, and because the forest was so densely populated with trees there was hardly any sunlight. Naruto knew that it was the sun that gave him power but didn't know why. Naruto didn't want to think about what had happened during the fight with Elastic Man. Naruto flashback. Okay, reasons for flashback segments will be explained at the bottom. Naruto had just stepped through the shrubs to relieve himself. He brought both his hands behind his back and started to whistle as he did number 1. Naruto slowly brought his orange pants back up and started to walk back to his comrades. Snap! Naruto turned his head to the direction the sound came from while drawing a kunai. The area seemed to be clear, but Naruto didn't move because the area seemed too eerie. Naruto suddenly fell onto the ground feeling incredibly weak. Naruto's hand started to quiver and he could see his veins become more prominent on his hand. Naruto looked around frantically until he saw a crater of kryptonite not far from him. Naruto could feel his entire body betray him, as it didn't want to move. Naruto cursed his damn weakness and wished he didn't have it. But things were only going to get worse as Naruto saw a huge snake emerge from the forest. Oh crap, Naruto muttered as the snake scooped him up and swallowed him whole. Naruto started to feel better as he was shielded from the kryptonite, but now the Kyuubi vessel was trapped in a snake and he couldn't get out. Naruto finally reached the snake's belly. Naruto started to smell cooked food until he looked down to see his clothes were being dissolved by the snake's stomach acid. Oh crap, Naruto muttered again as he had to think of a way out there and fast. Naruto flashback, and needless to say it was quite an ordeal for Naruto as he used his cage bunshin to escape from the belly of the beast. When Naruto returned to his team, he had found his team were off fighting some weird grass shinobi. Naruto was able to keep fighting until that weirdo used some weird jutsu on his seal. Ever since then he couldn't mold chakra properly. Anytime he used cage bunshin, the number of clones would be vastly different. The Kyuubi vessel looked to his right to see Ino had been incredibly quiet through the whole trip. Naruto could tell something big had happened and they weren't telling him. Naruto hated that they were keeping something from him, but he had no right to pry as he held so many secrets himself. Ino didn't know what to say or do. It was like her body was on autopilot. She looked between Sasuke and Naruto, both of them being beaten very easily, most likely their egos taking a huge blow. Sasuke was currently massaging his neck after taking that bite from the weird grass shinobi. He started to think back to the fight with the grass shinobi. Sasuke was waiting for that idiot Naruto to finish doing his business, but he hadn't come back and some guy had disguised himself as Naruto. But that wasn't the real problem. Some grass shinobi who was beyond their power was fighting him and he didn't know why. Sasuke was broken out of his train of thoughts when they had suddenly realized they had made it through the whole forest and now had reached their destination. Well Kabuto, I will see you there, Naruto told Kabuto, who walked off with his team. They were lucky in finding the guy who stopped Naruto from opening the scrolls. Sasuke looked at the glasses wearing shinobi and knew there was something really wrong with this guy. Ino was glad to have gotten out of the forest. If it weren't for Sakura's team coming while they did, she would have been dead. Ino was thankful to whoever was looking out for them that they were safe. Shishi Renden, lion combo. Show off, Naruto muttered as the chakra-sucking shinobi was knocked out by Sasuke's new move. The first match was between Sasuke and one of Kabuto's teammates. Naruto looked to a worried-looking Ino and began to feel hurt. When he woke up, all Ino was doing was seeing if Sasuke was all right. Now she was doing the same thing. Naruto didn't want to give up on Ino, but the more he came to know her, the more he began to realize that he would never get her. Naruto would have to dwell on his thoughts another time as he saw Kakashi take Sasuke somewhere else. Ino was still worried when she saw that mark on his neck. The man told Ino that Sasuke would seek him out for power. Ever since she saw Sasuke's purple chakra mayhem, she didn't know what to think. Naruto looked at Ino with concern as he felt left out of the loop, and even Kakashi knew what had happened except him. Naruto though felt strange ever since he started to rest. He couldn't quite describe it, but he felt so full of energy yet empty. Ino walked out of the balcony towards the bathroom. The orange boy just had to look on, hopefully being able to help his teammates. Ino finally walked out of the bathroom to see her name on the board and that she would be facing Haruno Sakura. Naruto had been standing on the balcony waiting for such a long time, waiting for his match to start. Both of his teammates had passed and Ino had passed quite convincingly by just using her jutsu to make Sakura give. Naruto never really liked the fangirl Sakura and her voice grated Naruto's nerves. Naruto had to wait for fight after fight to finish until finally his match was on. Kiba started to jump for joy as he thought Naruto would be an easy opponent. "Oi orange boy, don't you dare lose," Naruto heard Ino tell him as he started to walk down the balcony towards the middle area. Naruto just gave Ino a small smile and continued off to the arena. Kakashi was looking at Naruto with a lot of worry. The whole team was acting funny since they came out of the forest. He understood Ino and Sasuke, but Naruto was knocked out for most of it. His movements were very strange, like he didn't know how to walk in his own body. "You think Naruto is going to be fine?" Ino asked with questioning look her sensei as she saw his gaze linger on the fabled orange boy. "Naruto's grown a lot, Ino, you should have some belief in him. He did believe in you," Kakashi told her with smile behind his mask, as he picked his orange book from his jacket. Ino grumbled when she Kakashi's perverted book and returned her gaze back to the match. "Hey Akamaru, we got lucky," Kiba shouted out as he dog barked in agreement. Naruto started to get angry at the same repetitive statement. "Hey, are you going to fight or just talk crap all day?" Naruto shouted it with extreme anger laced in his voice. Naruto hated it when people underestimated him. Naruto would show this idiot how to fight. The match started with Akamaru by Kiba's side, which Naruto complained about, for letting dogs fight in a match. Kiba just smirked as he started to feed Akamaru a solider pill. "Oi, stop feeding your dog dope," Naruto shouted out rage as Kiba fed his dog a solider pill. Kiba looked up angrily but didn't answer as Akamaru's fur turned red. "Shikaku no Jutsu, 4 legs technique." Naruto suddenly took a step backwards as Kiba got on all fours and suddenly looked primal. Kiba didn't even tell Akamaru to fight with him, he just lunged after Naruto. The Kyuubi vessel was unprepared for Kiba's surprise attack as he was tossed around like rag doll. Kiba finished attacking the poor shinobi and immediately thought he had won. But Kiba clearly didn't know Naruto and was going shocked beyond words. Naruto slowly brought his feet onto the ground and leveled himself. The Kryptonian didn't know why he was so much out of chakra, but he wouldn't give up no matter what. Bringing both hands in his favorite seal, Naruto attempted to do his shadow clone technique. Ino and Kakashi started to get worried when they saw Naruto have trouble doing his favorite technique. Kakashi didn't know why Naruto was so exhausted, but he was defiantly having chakra molding issues. Ino was looking down with equal worry. She knew that Naruto had used a lot of chakra to help them get the second scroll and now he was paying the price. Naruto was on the defensive and kept dodging Kiba's swipes, hoping that would wear him down so he could get the advantage. God, you're so weak, Naruto, you can't even do any technique. What kind of shinobi are you? Kiba said to Naruto in a taunting voice which only angered Naruto further. Inside the Kyuubi vessel's head, he knew that Kiba was right. He was weak and a useless shinobi that should give up. Naruto knew never to give up, but now it was hopeless. Without chakra he was practically useless. Kiba had a huge smirk as he saw the uncertainty of Naruto grow. Jujin Bunshin. Beast human clone. From above the balcony everyone looked down knowing that this match was over and Naruto would lose terribly. However, one blonde shinobi was gritting her teeth and her knuckles were turning white as she was holding the railing. Kiba and his dog became identical to one another. Ino was on the brink of exploding as she saw Naruto slump his shoulders and wait for the attack from both Kiba and Akamaru. Why is that idiot standing there and waiting for the attack? What the hell is wrong with him? Ino was fuming inside and thinking these angry thoughts. Kakashi looked at Ino and smiled as he saw her angry expression. She's going to pop. Kakashi thought to himself. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? Stop goofing around and fight, damn it. Ino screamed out with anger. Everyone grabbed their ears to stop the shrill scream of Ino breaking their eardrums. Every Konoha shinobi's thoughts were exactly the same. Damn, she's louder than Naruto. Ino didn't care, as she was still angry with Naruto for giving up. Naruto was shocked that Ino would actually give some words of encouragement even though it sounded like she was telling him off. Naruto's slightly tan face was suddenly graced with a smile. Thanks, Ino-chan. Naruto whispered in a soft voice as he saw Kiba and Akamaru ready to punch him. Both their fists were going to land at the same time. Naruto knew he couldn't dodge in time or counter, so he hoped this worked. The boy from Krypton brought his head down ready to take the blow and crunch. All you could hear was the distinct sound of either bone breaking or something else breaking. Kiba and Akamaru brought their hands away from Naruto's head and started to scream in pain. Naruto smirked as he saw their anguish. Naruto knew he had finally grasped his invulnerability power. Well, I guess Naruto really is hard-headed, Kakashi said with a chuckle. The surrounding shinobi looked at Kakashi with sweat drops. Ino looks at Naruto to see him smiling at her and giving her thanks. Ino's face can be seen with a pink flush. "Ah, what the hell are you made of?" Kiba asked as he nursed his injured hand. Naruto only smirked as he saw the furious face of Kiba. Kiba, though, couldn't take it anymore and wouldn't let a dead last best him. "That's it, dead last, no more playing around, Akamaru." Kiba spoke out loud as he and both got into a stance. Up above in the stands, Kurenai smiled knowing that Kiba had this match in the bag and Naruto would not be able to stand against his jutsu. Ino, however, had more hope that Naruto would definitely be able to win this match. Back at the arena, Kiba and Akamaru finally unleashed their attack. Gatsuga, double piercing fang. Naruto definitely wasn't expecting this kind of attack, as Kiba and Akamaru started to do some rapid spins. Naruto quickly dodged to the left and then to the right. The shinobi on the balcony were impressed with Naruto's dodging skills as well as Kiba's technique. Kakashi didn't want to admit it, but Naruto was on the verge of losing this fight quite badly. Ino kept her words of encouragement up, but Naruto was finding it hard to dodge. The Kryptonian knew that either he had to come up with something or Kiba was going to get bragging rights for the whole year, and he didn't want to hear that mud gloat. "It's over, Naruto." Naruto heard Kiba shout as he was in the air. Naruto's lapse in concentration made Akamaru come from behind. Slowly but surely Kiba was going to hit. Wait a minute. Slowly, Naruto thought as he looked to see Kiba traveling towards him. Naruto could clearly see Kiba and Akamaru spin to him incredibly slowly. Naruto looked around to see everyone else seem to very slowly. Naruto didn't know how to describe it. It was like everyone was in slow motion and he was the only one moving properly. Naruto walked behind Kiba and waited for him to collide with Akamaru. When Naruto was out of the way, Kiba and Akamaru collided with such force that Akamaru was completely blown away and reverted back to his normal form. Every shinobi in the room was completely shocked as to how Naruto was able to dodge that attack. Kiba slowly got up to see Akamaru was knocked because of their head-on collision. Kiba didn't know how to react because 1 second Naruto was there, the next he was gone. Behind you. Kiba heard a voice speak from behind him. He quickly turned around to see no one. Behind you again. Kiba kept hearing, and every time he turned the voice was gone. Was he trapped in some sort of genjutsu? The crowd of shinobis on the balcony didn't know how Naruto could move that fast. One shinobi in particular knew that his speed surpassed his in every shape and form. Rock Lee looked at his sensei that was also perplexed at the blonde's speed. Kaka-sensei, I have never seen Naruto move that fast, or anyone, Ino told Kakashi in a hushed voice. Kakashi could only nod, as he had never seen anyone move that fast except his old sensei. Naruto looked at Kiba, who seemed perplexed beyond words and was starting to get freaked out. Naruto now had the upper hand and ran behind him to punch the dog boy in the air. Naruto wasn't finished as he readied his body for a big jump and launched his body into the air with his arms in front of him. Kiba was the one who was unprepared for the blow as Naruto launched him into the ceiling of the building with Naruto's fists in his back. Naruto landed on the ground safely and looked up to see Kiba fall to the ground knocked out. Naruto turned his gaze to the other shinobi, see that their eyes were wide open and mouths hanging. Naruto, is that another one of your powers? The Sandaime Hokage thought as he saw Naruto blistering speed. Hayate finally announced Naruto as the winner and Kiba was stretchered to the infirmary. Naruto was huffing and puffing so much that it took him a little longer to get back to the balcony. Ino though looked at Naruto in a new light. Who was Uzumaki Naruto? The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.